Hello and welcome to this episode of Mint Tech Talks. I'm Sana Marwaha, Deputy Manager at Live Mint. Today, joining us is a visionary leader who's helping shape the future of global service delivery. This is Ajay Anand, Global Vice Chair of EY Global Delivery Services. With over 80,000 professionals across 20 cities, EY Global Delivery Services is a cornerstone of EY's global strategy, driving innovation, transformation, and seamless client service. At the helm of this expansive network is Ajay, whose leadership blends deep sectoral expertise, strategic vision, and a strong commitment to building an inclusive and future ready workforce. Ajay's career at EY spans over 25 years. It's marked by his transformative impact across the technology, media, and telecom sector, his pioneering work in program performance situations, and his global client leadership on accounts like Liberty Global and Cisco. A Duke MBA and an electrical engineer by training, Ajay brings a unique blend of technical rigor and human centered leadership to every role that he takes on. As a long-standing advocate for diversity and equity, Ajay also serves on the Global Diversity and Inclusiveness Steering Committee and actively mentors future board leaders through programs like Aspiring Directors. Today, we speak with him about scaling leadership, driving purposeful innovation, and shaping the future of work. Hi, Ajay. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me. How are you doing?
All good. So my first question is that scaling EY GDS from one India hub to over 20 global delivery centers, it's not a small feat. So what, as per you, were the major turning points that enabled this growth for you?
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. So let me first talk about a little bit of our journey and then talk about a couple of the turning points. So we started in back in 2002 with one center in Trivandrum and really providing tax services. And frankly, at that point was a very modest beginning to doing some lower end work. It was all about labor arbitrage at that point. Over the day, we did so well. We've added so much different capabilities to that. And so we've grown tremendously. And there were a couple of turning points in that journey. One was about 15 years ago. We decided that we would have one global delivery network, not a bunch of different networks from all over the place. So that's why we're in 9 different countries, as you mentioned, with 20 different locations. But it's one network. We're all interconnected and under one leadership. And then just last year, we had another pivotal moment, which we had a new CEO, or CEO Janet Trancalli, and we rolled out a new strategy for EY, which is the all-in strategy. And at the heart of that strategy was GDS and how GDS connects with all of our member firms. And frankly, not just provide all the different services to our clients, but also we run all the operations for EY globally, as it's a 400,000 people organization with over 130 countries. All of that is also run by GDS as well. So it's a really exciting time to be here.
All right. And what would you define as borderless delivery in today's world?
Yeah, what is the delivery is for me, it's about having the right people with the right skills at the right place at the right time. And so what we look at is it's about capabilities and really, and capabilities don't reside in one place, whether it's in India and even different cities in India, but we have locations in Poland and in Latin America and other places in Europe. And it's all bringing that together under with common platforms, common technology, one team working together with our member firm. It doesn't matter where somebody sits. It's about the skill sets they bring to the table. And that's really true borderless delivery. And we're really proud of how we do that.
All right. So, do you think that that's redefined leadership and collaboration across geographies, especially in EYGDS?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we're a very collaborative culture at EY, and that's it's a beautiful part of it. I've been here 25 years, as you mentioned. Truth be told, originally I thought maybe, like many people, maybe I will do 1 or 2 years at a Big Four, but we have such a wonderful culture, and it's a collaborative culture. And so, with that, with the right leadership and the right strategy, which we have from our board and then with GDS, I think we are now really operating at full potential.
Well, AI and automation are now transforming how work gets done. So, how do you, as a leader, ensure a balance between embracing this accelerated technological transformation and nurturing an environment which is people first and human centered? This, especially in an organization which is as large and as diverse as EYGDS.
Sana, that's a great question. And, every single conversation that I have, there's an element of AI discussion. As you mentioned in your intro, I'm an engineer by background and a technologist at heart. And if I step back in my career, when I did my master's thesis, it was on AI, the precursor of AI, neural networks. And even at that point, while I had huge hopes for it, even that has far exceeded what my hopes were for that. And as I step back and look at different technologies that have come about, some have been really transformative, like the internet, personal computing. And I personally feel that AI has a potential to be at least as transformative as those things, maybe even more so. So we talk about AI and embed that in everything that we do. Now, as it comes to humans, just like when we did the internet, internet didn't replace humans. So we went to things like mobile banking. That didn't replace the need for humans in the banking sector. And so same thing with AI. We look at it in three different categories. One is augmented roles, and you're starting to see that already with augmented role where AI is helping people doing their jobs and making them do it faster, better, and so forth. Then there will be some places where there is some displacement, but what we're doing is upskilling those people, and AI actually can help with that because of using the number one thing about augmented that makes them be able to do those jobs, different new jobs better. And then what I'm most excited about it is going to create brand new roles. And we're already seeing that. There's roles like prompt engineers, there's responsible AI, there's data, and a lot that we haven't even imagined yet. So we will have lots of different roles for people, and AI is going to overall improve our productivity and ultimately quality of life.
And how are you at EYGDS kind of training your people and your workforce to be ready in the age of AI?
Thanks, Anna. Great question. And things have changed quite a bit. And one of the things we've started doing is we introduced, for example, a distinguished engineer technologist program. And so it's sort of like when a lot of the tech companies do is like fellows. So we are hiring engineers in EY, not just tax specialists or CAs. We're hiring engineers, and they can have a career as a distinguished engineer in EY. And those people are helping us with things like cloud computing, data, and as well as AI. Another thing we've done is we've have these things called hackathons, but we label them innovate sessions. So we're doing that across all our locations, all our service lines, where we have these hackathons. We've even introduced things like Shark Tank like type of pitch your ideas, and we'll fund that. So we do it at the GDS level, and we do it at the global level. And just interestingly, just last week we had the global meeting on that in Silicon Valley, and I'm happy to say two of the GDS teams won their competition and are getting funding for that. So we're really trying to do these things, and then along with that, we also have an AI academy, and which is there to really upscale all of our people in AI. So we're doing all these different things to really get ready for the AI and sort of lead the AI transformation.
Right. So, could you tell me which would your favorite AI app be or something that you use on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I use very different apps. Some of them I actually use to do my vacations and so forth, to have an agent to say, build out my itinerary. And we've implemented some of the other AI apps. Microsoft is the alliance partner with EY. So we have implemented Copilot, which we've rolled out to all our employees as well. So I've been using that in making, every day in terms of my emails and other things and transcribing some of the meetings. Interesting thing, I was late to a meeting and I asked AI to catch me up. And it gave me a very good summary of what happened, what parts I missed. I felt like I didn't even miss the meeting. So there's a lot of different things that I do. And a fun one that I do is Suno, which is creating music, creating songs. And as I'm a technologist, I'm not as much of a creative person, so I could leverage AI to be the creative part of it. So I created a song for my son for his graduation using AI and Suno app.
That's cool. Yeah, I think even I've probably used it the most for planning vacations because it's just gotten so easy now with that. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah. You've often emphasized the untapped potential of tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India. So, as per you, what do these emerging hubs play? What kind of role do they play in your long term strategy? And how is EY enabling talent from these regions to participate in and even lead global scale innovations?
Yeah, no, great question. And historically, when people looked at tier two, tier three, it was to get lower cost. We look at it a little bit differently. While cost is important, it's all about talent, as you mentioned. And so we want to be where talent is. And given the size and scale, and we talked about the borderless delivery, it doesn't really matter where you are physically. So we have opened up centers. I talked about Kochi and Trivandrum. I'm excited to say we're at about 10,000 people in those locations. And that has worked out so well. We opened another location in Coimbatore. And that is working out well because there's a good pool of talent over there. So for me, it's about talent. And even outside of India, we tap into talent globally. So it's, again, back to that borderless delivery of, given the way how fast the world is transforming, we need to get the best and brightest, no matter where they live.
Right, makes sense. All right. Well, we've heard that your leadership mantra is clarity over control and coaching over commanding. That's a refreshing take, especially in today's world, which is high pressure. So, could you share a pivotal moment when this approach kind of helped you navigate a challenge within your team?
Yeah, no, great question, and thanks for bringing that up. First of all, I think EY is a very good culture, and we're not a command and control type of culture, which I love. It's a very collaborative culture. So, what we talk about is really about clarity. Is what are the goals, and from a leader standpoint, if we can get aligned as where we're going, what's true north, if you will, and where we want the team to go, then you get the right leaders and empower those leaders to help make the decision. So it's not individual sport, if you will. This is the team sport, and so it's not just one moment. It's anything every day. As you know, our world is very dynamic. There's all kinds of pressures, as you mentioned, and so there's things happening every day. But you have the right clarity of purpose of what you're trying to accomplish. You have the right team and leaders that are empowered. You can get different, diverse points of views, and then you provide them with coaching. And coaching, we say coaching is a gift. And I look at things as I'm not a manager, I'm a coach. It's just like a coach is working on a sports team to set the strategy for the game, and then to get the best out of the people, the team. And that's the mindset that I have. So that's where it's about a coach mentality.
All right, and drawing from this, what does sustainable long term leadership look like to you in a high stakes, fast evolving environment? Because, you know, it's easy to say things, but when you have external pressures on you, you have numbers, you have so many things, then how does that work? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think it first starts with purpose and values. If you have clarity of purpose, clarity on your values, that's a very good grounding thing. And then it's about creating that right environment. As I said, it's about engaging with people with empathy, bringing in the team. It's not about being soft. We have tough conversations, but we do it in a appropriate way in private, in a coaching type of environment. And so when the team is knows the purpose and there's value, and just like in a sport environment, people have different roles and they have different positions to play, if you will. So when a tough environment does come, and they happen a lot, you know that you can draw on skill sets and experiences, and this is where the inclusiveness comes is as well, because you want to get ideas from everybody. And so you want to create that environment to be able to for people to speak up, and we make much better decisions when we work collectively than individuals. And so that's sort of how we operate. And that's part of the reason why I do some of the things. I'm in, as I mentioned to you, in Chennai. It's we do a monthly meeting here in different location. This time we're in Chennai. We meet with town halls with the team, so we're on the ground. But then I have an in-person meeting with our leadership team every month for 2 days. So we talk about all the different things that are going on. The other thing I would add is it's about transparency. So I'm trying to be very transparent with our team and not just tell them all the good stuff, but tell them all the challenges we're facing. And if you're transparent, then that's when you become authentic, and people then will come up with ideas, and we're solving problems together. So it's about first, in summary, it's about purpose, it's about empowerment, it's about coaching, it's about transparency. I think those are some of the elements that I use in my leadership style.
Well, building psychological safety and resilience across over 80,000 professionals, that requires some amount of intentionality. So, how do you create that sort of sense of support and belonging, especially at a time like now, post COVID, when work is distributed, hybrid models are there, and leadership can often tend to be invisible, right?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And as you know, I'm an engineer, I'm a science student. So one of the things I've been studying up is the neuroscience of human behavior and resiliency. And psychological safety is so important to that. We go through so much stuff. We've been through a pandemic. There's so much going on in the world every day, whether it's geopolitical and other things. And then you add to that the business environment and the challenges there are. And so all of those things creates change. And change leads to uncertainty. And anytime you have uncertainty, that leads to stress. And so how one reacts to that stress is really about the psychological safety. If psychological safety is not there, then stress turns into a threat. And what happens from a brain standpoint, when you're under threat, then you become very rigid. You take the safe way out. You don't use creative parts of your brain, because it's the fight or flee type of mentality. And but when you're in have psychological safety, then brain takes that stress as a threat, as a challenge. And when you take it as a challenge, that's when you get the creativity happening. And so, as a leader, one of the things that we're trying to create is that psychological safety and the environment that's on there. And so, how we do that is one. First of all, we're talking about it. That's the first step of that this is important, and so then it's about how do we deal with empathy. So when there's a failure, how we deal with that failure. But then one of the things that I do is be present with the teams. So I mentioned to you earlier that we have town halls and where we meet with people. I actually don't have any presentations on those meetings. It's all about Q&A. It's all about whatever is on top of their mind, and also creating that environment that you feel free to ask any question at all. And I have myself and the whole leadership team. So we do this, as I mentioned, monthly, and we go and really talk about this stuff, and really talk about what's on top of people's mind. And so that helps start creating that psychological safety. Part of it is also being vulnerable, sharing with people that we're dealing with all this stuff, and so forth, and how we deal with it. One of the things that I share with is with my travel schedule, it's pretty hectic and it takes a toll and so forth. So I talk about how I manage through that work-life balances, some of the challenges that come along with it, and that starts creating that environment where people can talk about this stuff and feel safe to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And drawing on that, you've championed diversity, equity, and inclusion both within EY and externally as well. So, how do you operationalize inclusion across cultures and time zones? Because, of course, you deal across countries and cities and continents.
Yeah, this is one area that I'm very passionate about. I've been at it for a long time, and this is the never-ending work, but it's something that's very important. One of the things we did in about 10 years ago at the global level under our previous CEO is we created a global D&I steering committee. That was sort of novel for a big company with 130 offices to pull together something that looks across the globe. And diversity has different implications in different parts of the world. And I was honored that he asked me to be part of that committee, and I'm still on that committee 10 years later. And some of the things we do is we look at what works well in certain areas, in certain parts of the world, and what can we learn from. So we share across the world of some of the best practices, and then we try to take that and then diffuse it down to other things, other areas. We're trying to do inclusivity for all. So we have internal trainings that we talk about. We talk about belonging, and belonging is a key metric. And we do people pulse survey, which is our survey of all our people. And we typically get 80-85% response rate, so it's a very good indicative of how our people are feeling. So we ask questions like, do I feel free to be myself at work? Am I feeling like I'm getting full potential? And I'm happy to say we get great results. Now I link that with accountability as well. So we just went through our performance review process, and in addition to looking at the financial contributions, we also look at how they did with their teams in the people polls. And that also goes into how their ratings is, performance rating, to reinforce that it's not just about the actual quantitative results. It's about our teams, it's about people, and people that are leaders that are doing that well will be rewarded. And if you're not, then you need to step up your game.
Right. Well, one last question for you, again related to leadership. Leaders today operate in a state of constant visibility, right? There's social media, there's digital dashboards, there's virtual presence. People are practically brands now. So, at a time like this, how do you kind of stay authentic and vulnerable while still maintaining your executive presence and whatever strategic clarity it is that you need at your role?
Yes, and a great question. As it first starts with that purpose and values. You have to be true to purpose and what your values are, and you really need to define them and stay. That's your grounding. Then I think it's about being curious. Curious. I've done lots of different things in my career, and a lot of it is because I was curious. As we talked about, I moved from different countries and different roles and so forth because I'm always curious, and that's one of the things that I would encourage all leaders and everybody to continue to stay curious. And then because the world is changing, and how do you curious to adaptability and all that. Another thing I talk about is at the end of the day, people are important and relationships are important. So put a lot of emphasis on building those trusting relationships internally, externally, with our teams. This is with the coach mentality that I talk about. First of all, the coach needs to earn the trust of their team. And so it's about building those relationships. And then there's an element of being resilient. It is a tough world out there, and lots of changes and lots of different things that got on there. So I even talk to my kids about how do you become resilient. And I've had ups and downs through my career, and it's about how do you react to that? How do you learn from your mistakes? I talk about mistakes are actually failures. You learn more from your failures than successes. So don't look at that as a negative thing. This is a way to learn more, and then that will make you a better person. So for me, it's about leading with purpose, adapting and with curiosity, and then being vulnerable and empathetic. I mean, those are some of the things that are core to leadership from my standpoint.
Ajay's journey exemplifies how leadership today is as much about vision and innovation as it is about empathy and intentionality. From building global delivery models to mentoring the next generation of diverse leaders, his work reminds us that scale and soul can coexist, and that the future of the work is not just digital but deeply human as well. Hope you all enjoyed this conversation and are taking back some useful insights. Thank you for watching.